She came to Hale Ranch expecting a husband who had bought her future. But why did the feared cowboy insist the first thing she still owned was her choice? The marriage contract trembled beneath Lily's fingers as rain hammered the windows. Ethan Hale sat across from her, silent, his silver ring beside the ink. Then his chair scraped the floor. "You can still say no." Lily froze. What kind of man had she just agreed to marry? "Tell us where you're watching from." "I'll do it." Lily Carter kept her voice steady, though both hands were trembling beneath the kitchen table. Across from her sat Ethan Hale, the most feared cattleman in Copper Ridge. He wore a dark work coat still carrying dust from the road, and his hat rested beside one weathered hand. He did not smile. He did not reach for her. Between them lay the marriage agreement. 3 days earlier, Lily had barely known his name. Now, at 22, she was considering becoming his wife. It had begun that morning while she was kneading bread. Her father called from the front room. "Lily?" She stopped. Gerald Carter had a certain voice when trouble had gone beyond fixing. She had heard it when their well nearly failed 2 summers earlier. She had heard it when the feed merchant refused them another month of credit. She wiped flour from her hands and walked in. Gerald sat at the table, turning his hat between his palms. Ruth Carter stood beside the window, staring across fields browned by 3 poor seasons. "Sit down," Gerald said. "I'd rather stand." His eyes remained on the table. "Ethan Hale came yesterday." Lily felt something tighten inside her. Everybody in Copper Ridge knew Hale Ranch. Thousands of cattle moved beneath its brand. Ethan hired men other ranchers had turned away, paid wages on time, and rarely came into town except on business. People lowered their voices when they spoke about him. "What did he want?" Gerald swallowed. "He offered to clear what we owe." Lily stared at him. "The mortgage?" "All of it. Feed notes, Henderson's seed account, everything." The room seemed suddenly too small. "What does he want?" Her father finally looked up. That was answer enough. "No." "Lily, no." She stepped backward. "I am not a horse you trade, because the winter was bad." Ruth turned from the window. "Nobody said you were." "Then tell him no." Gerald's face looked older than it had the week before. "If we lose this place, Danny and Tom lose their home. Your mother and I have nowhere to go. I've tried every bank between here and San Antonio." Lily looked toward the kitchen doorway. Beyond it sat the bread she had been making for a family that might soon have no kitchen. "I want to speak to Hale myself." 2 days later, Ethan came through the Carter gate shortly before noon. He dismounted without hurry, tied his horse himself, and removed his hat before entering the house. Lily had expected someone harder. Instead, she found a tall, lean man with sun-darkened skin, tired eyes, and hands marked by rope and honest work. When Gerald and Ruth left them alone, Ethan sat across from her. "I expect your father made this sound worse than I intended. He made it sound like you want a wife in exchange for his debt." Ethan considered that. "That part is true." Lily's jaw tightened. "But there's another part," he said. "You can say no." She studied him. "If you refuse, I leave. Your family owes me nothing because we had this conversation. I won't come back asking again." "And if I say yes?" "The Carter debts are paid and canceled, not transferred to me." He slid the agreement toward her, but kept his hand away from hers. "You'd come to Hale Ranch as my wife. I need someone capable of managing the household accounts and helping keep the ranch families connected. You'd have your own room, Lily hesitated. And what else would you expect from a wife? For the first time, Ethan's expression softened. Nothing you don't choose. Silence settled between them. You'll always have a choice with me, Miss Carter. Lily searched his face for amusement, hunger, or some sign that the promise was merely bait. She found none. You could be lying. I could. The answer startled her. That's a risk you'll have to judge for yourself. He stood and picked up his hat. No deadline. At the doorway, Lily stopped him. If I come to your ranch and discover you lied to me, I won't protect your reputation. Ethan looked back. Something almost like approval moved through his eyes. Good. That night, Lily sat alone beside the dying kitchen fire. The agreement rested beneath the lamp. Outside, wind scraped dry grass against the house. Somewhere in the back room, Tom laughed at something Danny whispered. Ruth was washing the last supper plates. Ordinary sounds. Sounds she might be saving or leaving. Lily picked up the pen. Her hand shook once. Then she signed her name. 3 weeks later, a traveling minister stood in the Carter front room while Lily wore Ruth's altered blue dress. When the minister asked whether she entered the marriage willingly, Lily paused. 1 second. Ethan waited without moving. I do. Afterward, Lily hugged her mother and brothers. With Gerald, she settled for a handshake, because anything more might break the control she had fought all morning to keep. Then she climbed onto Ethan's wagon. For the first mile, neither spoke. Finally, Ethan said, Mrs. Greer put clean sheets in your room. Thank you. Another stretch of road passed beneath the wheels. The men know you're coming, he added. I told them you're mistress of the house. Anyone who treats you otherwise can collect his wages the next morning. Lily turned toward him. You told them exactly that? Exactly. Ahead, the road climbed. Hale Ranch appeared beyond the ridge. Dark barns and corrals spread beneath an enormous Texas sky. Lily looked at the place that was now supposed to be home. Back at the Carter farm, she had possessed one comfort: witnesses. If Ethan Hale had lied, her parents had been close enough to hear her call. Out here, there was only open country, unfamiliar men, and the husband she had chosen because every other road seemed to be closing. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the wagon seat. Then Ethan glanced at her. Not possessively, not triumphantly. He simply slowed the horses as they approached the gate, giving her time to look. Lily remembered what he had said across her father's kitchen table. You'll always have a choice with me. The gate swung open, and Lily rode through, still uncertain whether those words were a promise or the first lie of her new life. The first thing she noticed about Hale Ranch was the sound. Not silence. Work. Hammers striking wood somewhere beyond the barn. A horse blowing hard in the corral. Men calling to one another from the cattle pens. The steady groan of a wagon axle under weight. Nobody stopped because Ethan Hale had brought home a wife. That helped. The main house stood low and broad beneath a line of cottonwoods, built from weathered timber with a stone chimney, blackened by years of smoke. Inside, everything was clean but plain. A large table, good iron cookware, shelves that held what a working ranch needed and little else. Ethan carried her trunk down the hall. This room is yours. Lily stepped inside. Fresh sheets, a wash basin, one narrow window facing south. No shared bed, no locked door, no surprise waiting behind his promise. She turned. Where do you sleep? Across the hall. He nodded toward another door, then set her trunk down. If you need something, ask. That was all. The next morning, Lily woke before sunrise and lay still beneath the quilt. At Carter Ranch, mornings had begun with familiar sounds. Her father's boots, Ruth opening the stove, Danny and Tom arguing over chores. Here, the day was already moving without her. She dressed, braided her hair, and stepped into the kitchen. Ethan was gone. A cup sat beside a folded note. Coffee on stove, hands eat at 6. If the kitchen needs anything, write it down. Lily read it twice. Then she opened the pantry. By 7, she had changed nearly everything. Flour moved away from damp wallboards. Salt went into sealed tins. Dried beans were sorted by sack. She found 2 jars of molasses shoved behind oats, 3 opened coffee bags, and enough onions stored badly to lose half of them before winter. By 8, bread was in the oven. She counted 8 men crossing the yard, so she cooked for 8. When she carried a skillet and a basket of biscuits toward the bunkhouse, conversation inside stopped before she knocked. An older man with a gray beard opened the door. "Ma'am?" "Breakfast." He glanced at the food, then at her. "I'm Cord, foreman." "Lily." Something shifted in his face when she used her first name. "Mr. Hale said Mrs. Hale." "I know what he said." Cord almost smiled. The younger men were stiffer. Will, the youngest, thanked her twice and nearly knocked over his coffee cup doing it. Pete kept his eyes respectfully on his plate. No one tested Ethan's warning. By evening, Lily had learned where the linens were kept, which window latch stuck, and that the dining table had a split down one side that should have been repaired months ago. She set supper at 6. Ethan came through the back door exactly on time. He stopped when he saw plates on the table instead of a pot left on the stove. "You didn't have to cook for me. You had to eat." "So did you." "Exactly. Cooking twice would be foolish." He sat. The meal passed quietly. Halfway through, Ethan said, "Cord told me you fed the hands." "There was enough." "That's more than I asked." Lily looked up. "I don't do things halfway, Mr. Hale." "Ethan." She paused. "What?" "My name." He took another bite. "Mr. Hale was my father." Then Ethan. When supper ended, he carried his plate to the wash basin. Then he came back for hers. Lily noticed. She wished she had not. The days found their rhythm. Clara Marsh lived in one of the outlying cabins with her husband and a child whose cough worsened at night. B. Rollins lived farther east and spoke with the hungry speed of a woman who had spent too many days hearing only her own thoughts. Lily began visiting both. Soon Cord carried word back that the ranch wives liked having someone who remembered they existed. Ethan said nothing. Then one evening he walked into the kitchen, set a bolt of blue cloth on the table, and started toward the hall. Lily touched the fabric. "What's this?" "For the windows." He kept walking. The cloth was finer than anything she would have bought herself. The next morning, Ethan came in from checking the north pasture and found coffee waiting. Black, strong, exactly the way he drank it. He looked at the cup, then at Lily. Neither mentioned the curtains. 3 weeks after her arrival, Lily broke the stove. A cast-iron draft plate refused to move. She gave the wrench one turn too many. The fitting snapped. For several seconds, she stared at it. Then she went to find Cord. "I made it worse," he blinked. "Ma'am?" "The stove. I need someone who actually knows what he's doing." Cord and Pete spent most of the afternoon helping her repair it. By supper, the stove drew better than it had in years. Ethan entered, looked at the soot on Lily's forearm, then at the stove. "Cord told me." "I assumed he would." "You could have waited." "For what?" "For me." She sat down. "I'm not very good at waiting." His expression changed, only slightly. I know. Something eased between them. Then came Bobby Reeves. Bobby was 20 and good with horses, bad with figures. One wrong supply order cost Hale Ranch money they could not afford to waste. Lily heard the conversation through the open office window. I made a mistake, Bobby said. Yes, Ethan answered. Lily waited for dismissal. Instead, Ethan said, You'll check every order with Cord for 6 months. By the end of that time, you'll know those figures better than anyone here. Bobby swallowed. You're not firing me? You made a mistake. You didn't build a habit. A pause. Don't build one. That night, Lily found herself looking at Ethan differently across the supper table. Then late October brought the storm. Rain struck Hale Ranch sideways. Wind shook the shutters hard enough to rattle their hinges. Cord came in, soaked through. Sadie's down. Ethan had been in the barn since afternoon. Lily took a lantern and went. She found him kneeling in straw beside an old gray mare, one hand resting against the animal's neck. Sadie's breathing was failing. Lily understood enough to know there was little left to do. So she sat across from Ethan. She stayed. An hour passed. Then another. The storm beat against the roof. Ethan never raised his voice, never left the mare, never looked toward the door. Sadie died before dawn. For a long time, Ethan remained where he was. Finally, he said very quietly, She was the first horse I bought after I took this place over. Lily looked at him. His face had lost all its guarded stillness. I hate losing things. Nothing in Copper Ridge's stories had prepared her for that sentence. Lily rose. Come inside. He looked up. I'll make coffee. For once, Ethan Hale obeyed. They sat at the kitchen table while rain ran down the windows and the lamp burned low between them. Neither said much. There was nothing useful to say. But Lily understood something before she went back to her room. The man she had feared was not empty. He was full of things he had never learned to put down. And somewhere during that long, wet night, without either of them naming it, Lily stopped wondering only whether Ethan Hale was dangerous. She began wondering who had ever stayed beside him when something he loved was dying. The answer, as far as she could tell, was nobody. Morning came gray and raw. Ethan was gone before sunrise. Lily heard the back door close and found his coffee cup untouched beside the stove. She poured it out after it went cold. Nothing was said about Sadie. Still, something had changed. Cord began bringing ranch matters to the kitchen table instead of calling Ethan outside. Ethan stopped lowering his voice when discussing feed costs or fence repairs in front of Lily. Once, while Cord described damage along the east line, Ethan looked toward her and asked, How much wire is left on the October order? Lily answered without checking her notes. 200 feet. I can make it 250. Ethan nodded. Do that. Cord looked down so neither of them would see him smile. By November, Lily knew the ranch accounts better than anyone except Ethan. She found 2 invoices from a Copper Ridge grain merchant that had been paid twice. She rode into town with the receipts folded inside her handbag and returned with the money. At supper, Ethan stared at the coins she placed beside his plate. He gave it back? I showed him his own figures. He didn't argue? He tried. A faint movement crossed Ethan's mouth. Lily lifted her coffee. He stopped. She also discovered the grain price had been creeping upward for nearly 2 years. I'm renegotiating it in January. Ethan set down his fork. I never asked you to. I know. Do you want me to tell you to stop? He looked at her for several seconds. No. That answer warmed her more than praise would have. A week later, she went into Copper Ridge with Will for flour, lamp oil, thread, and a replacement hinge. Near the fabric counter, Two women were speaking behind a stack of winter blankets. Lily heard Ethan's name. Cold as iron, they say. The other woman lowered her voice. He wasn't cold when the Finley barn burned. Sent 4 hands there for nearly a week. Wouldn't take payment. Lily went still. And the Garzas? Hale men finished their harvest when Mr. Garza fell sick. How did I never hear that? Because Hale never told anyone. The first woman sniffed. Well, he still doesn't come to church, her companion answered quietly. Some men don't need a room full of people watching before they do something decent. Lily carried that sentence home with her. That evening, Ethan was bent over a ledger when she set her cup down across from him. Why didn't you tell me about the Finleys? His pencil stopped, then moved again. Who told you? Copper Ridge apparently knows more about my husband than I do. That town talks too much. And the Garzas? They needed help. So you helped them. I had men. They needed men. That sounds suspiciously like kindness. It was arithmetic. Lily studied him. Do you always make generosity sound like bookkeeping? That finally made him look up. For a moment, neither moved. Then Lily asked, Were you always like this? The lamp hissed softly between them. Ethan closed the ledger. My father wasn't. Something in his voice told her not to interrupt. He owned notes on half the small outfits west of Miller Creek at one time or another. He liked knowing who owed him, liked knowing what a man would agree to when his winter feed depended on it. Lily's fingers tightened around her cup. When I took over Hale Ranch, I decided I wouldn't build it that way. His eyes met hers. Your family's debt is gone, Lily. There's no note in my desk, no paper I can use against your father. I know. I wasn't sure you did. She held his gaze. I do now. The words settled quietly. 3 days later, the calm broke in the ranch yard. Rourke was nose to nose with a neighboring ranch hand over a disputed fence marker. Both men were angry enough that the horses nearby had begun shifting nervously. Ethan crossed the yard and stepped between them. He put one hand against Rourke's chest. Walk away. Rourke's jaw worked. Then he did. Ethan turned to the other man. What's the real problem? Rourke says our fence is on Hale land. I'll have Cord check the survey line Saturday. If it crosses, your family and I will settle it without shouting across a pasture. The young man nodded and rode off. Lily watched from the doorway. Ethan came toward the house. The line's probably fine, he said. And Rourke knows better now. You're going back out? Yes. No. He stopped. Lily pointed toward the kitchen. Sit down. Eat something. I have work. You will still have work in 20 minutes. Ethan looked at her. Then, slowly, he sat. The change was almost nothing. His shoulders dropped perhaps half an inch. He breathed out. Lily turned toward the stove before he could see what that small surrender did to her. 3 days later, B. Rollins came through the Hale gate at a near trot. She did not remove her gloves when she entered. Lily, there's talk in town. What kind? B. looked toward the window. Victor Hargrove. The name changed the room. He's telling people Ethan bought you, that your family had no choice and neither did you. Lily's face went still. That's a lie. I know. B. swallowed. There's more. One of Hargrove's men has been at the county land office twice this month, asking about Hale property records, western boundary papers. Lily felt the anger arrive first, then something colder. Why the western boundary? I don't know. After B left, Lily went straight to Ethan's office. Old deeds, tax receipts, survey maps, transfer records. She covered his desk with them, 2 hours later, Ethan came in, saw the papers, and stopped. What happened? Victor Hargrove is asking questions about your Western line. His face changed. Not fear, recognition. You know him? Yes. Then sit down and tell me why. Ethan pulled out the chair opposite her. He wants the water. Lily looked at the old map between them. Miller Creek? The Western branch. She drew the lamp closer. Then let's find out what he thinks belongs to him. They worked until near midnight. At last, Lily placed 2 surveys side by side. One dated 1861, one dated 1869. She read the first boundary description, then the second. Her finger stopped. Ethan. He leaned over her shoulder. The original record ran to the north branch of Miller Creek. The amendment named the south branch. Between them lay roughly 60 acres, and the water Hargrove wanted. Lily turned to the signature line at the bottom of the later filing. Her pulse slowed instead of quickening. Who is Amos Cutter? Ethan stared at the name, then at her. Outside, the November wind moved through the bare cottonwoods. When he answered, his voice had gone very quiet. A relative of the man Hargrove has searching those records. Lily looked again at the 2 surveys. Victor Hargrove had not found a mistake. He had known exactly where to look. By 9 the next morning, Lily and Ethan were climbing the narrow stairs above the Copper Ridge feed store to Thomas Aldridge's law office. Aldridge was 60, gray at the temples, and patient in the way of a man who had spent 35 years listening to people bring him problems they believed were unique. He read both surveys once, then again, then a third time. The 1869 amendment is irregular, he said. That helps us? Lily asked. It gives us something to question, not something to prove. Ethan leaned forward. What would prove it? Aldridge tapped the older document. Intent. Correspondence. A record showing somebody knew this boundary was being changed improperly. He opened a drawer and removed another paper. Hargrove filed his claim 4 days ago. Lily felt Ethan go still beside her. Aldridge continued. He wants the 60-acre strip along Miller Creek. So he was ready, Lily said. He has probably been ready for years. Back at Hale Ranch, Cord was waiting in the yard. No one goes into the office, Ethan told him. Not unless Lily or I am there. Cord looked between them once. Done. 4 old document boxes came down from the office shelves. Dust rose into the lamplight. Lily found cattle receipts, tax notices, seed invoices, and letters folded so many times the paper had nearly worn through at the creases. 2 hours passed. Then her hand closed around a brittle envelope. Ethan. He crossed the room. The letter was dated March 1869 and signed by Holt, the county surveyor. Lily read the first paragraph twice. Amos Cutter had asked Holt to alter the western Hale boundary. Holt had refused. The request had come on behalf of an unnamed landholder with substantial interests south of the Hale property. Lily looked up. Hargrove's family. Ethan took the letter. His jaw tightened. This started before I owned the ranch. Before Victor did too. They carried the letter back to Aldridge before sundown. This time the lawyer's expression changed. Now, he said, setting the letter beside both surveys, we have a pattern. On the wagon ride home, the road narrowed between dry grass and a low ridge. 3 riders waited ahead. Victor Hargrove sat in the center. He was broad-shouldered, carefully dressed, and still enough to make the 2 men behind him seem restless by comparison. Ethan stopped the wagon. Hale. Hargrove. Victor's eyes moved to Lily. I'd rather discuss land business privately. Ethan did not look at her. My wife isn't going anywhere. The words were simple. Lily felt them settle. Hargrove smiled without warmth. I'm prepared to pay well for those 60 acres. They aren't for sale. You may change your mind after 2 years of lawyers. Ethan's voice remained quiet. The 1869 amendment was tampered with. Hargrove's expression did not move. Lily watched him. Then she said, Amos Cutter. For the first time, something changed behind his eyes. Small, fast, enough. Hargrove looked at her properly now. You don't know what you have. Yes, Lily said. We do. His attention returned to Ethan. This will cost you. Then it costs me. Hargrove turned his horse. This isn't finished. No, Ethan said. It isn't. The 3 riders disappeared into the falling light. For several seconds, neither Lily nor Ethan spoke. Then Ethan looked at her. You told him about Cutter. I wanted to see his face. That was not the strategic choice. No. A pause. Did you enjoy it? Lily looked straight ahead. A little. Ethan smiled. Barely. But she saw it. The smile stayed with her until Copper Ridge found another way to hurt. A week later, B. Rollins arrived with news that Hargrove had been telling anyone willing to listen that Ethan had bought Lily with her family's debt. The story spread because it resembled the truth from far away. At the dry goods store, Mrs. Garvey asked Lily, in front of 5 other women, whether she had signed the marriage agreement herself. Lily set her parcel on the counter. I did. Mrs. Garvey blinked. And did Mr. Hale make it clear you could refuse? He did. Lily held her gaze. If anybody in Copper Ridge wants to know whether my husband forced me into marriage, they can ask me directly. I'm standing right here. No one spoke. That evening, Ethan was waiting in the kitchen when she returned. Cord told me. I handled it. I know. Then don't tell me you should have protected me. He stopped. Lily removed her gloves. Ethan stepped closer. I wasn't going to say that. What were you going to say? That being able to handle something doesn't mean you should always have to handle it alone. The room went quiet. He reached up slowly and moved one loose strand of hair away from her cheek. His fingers barely touched her. Then he stepped back. 4 days before the hearing, Hargrove made his final move. He bought an old Hale banknote and demanded immediate payment under a forgotten clause. Cord brought the message to the east fence, where Ethan was working. Lily read it first. How bad? Cord asked. Manageable. Ethan looked at her. She folded the note. The money we saved on grain and the duplicate invoices covers most of it. We can pay without touching winter feed. You already checked? This morning. Ethan stared at her. Hargrove had expected panic. Instead, Lily mounted her horse. Where are you going? To the Garzas, then the Finleys, then the Hendersons. For what? Witnesses. She tightened the reins. He's been telling Copper Ridge who you are for weeks. Her eyes met Ethan's. I think it's time the people you helped told them the truth. By sunset, she returned with 4 families willing to stand in court. Ethan waited on the porch. How many? 4, maybe 5. He took her horse's reins as she dismounted. Lily, don't thank me yet. I wasn't going to. She looked at him. His voice dropped. I was going to say I don't know what I did to deserve this. Deserve what? His answer came without hesitation. You. Lily stood very still. Then she said, You showed up. Ethan's eyes stayed on hers. You showed up when it mattered. You kept your word. You never asked me to be smaller, so you could feel bigger. She let out a slow breath. That isn't nothing. His hand found hers. He held it quietly. The courthouse opened at 9 the next morning, and for the first time, Lily understood that the 60 acres were no longer the only thing at stake. Copper Ridge was about to decide what kind of man Ethan Hale was, and Lily intended to make sure they heard the truth. By 8:30, the courthouse steps were crowded with ranch families, hired hands, and townspeople pretending they had business nearby. The morning was cold enough to show breath. Lily climbed the steps beside Ethan in her dark blue dress, carrying nothing but her gloves. Thomas Aldridge already had the papers, the 1861 survey, the disputed 1869 amendment, Holt's letter, the bank records. Everything that could be proven was inside that building. Everything else would depend on people. The Garzas had come. So had the Finleys and Hendersons. B. Rollins stood near the doorway. Clara Marsh had brought her husband. Then Lily saw Bobby Reeves at the back of the hall, wearing a clean shirt a little too large across the shoulders. Ethan stopped. You didn't have to come. Bobby looked down at his hat. Figured somebody ought to tell them what kind of boss gives a man another chance after he costs him money. Ethan said nothing for a moment. Then he nodded. That helps. Victor Hargrove arrived with the 2 lawyers from San Antonio. His coat was finer than Ethan's. His boots had seen less mud. He looked at Lily only once. Judge Whitmore entered at 9 precisely. The room fell silent. Aldridge built the case slowly. First came the original survey, then the amendment, then the discrepancy between the north and south branches of Miller Creek. Finally, Holt's letter. Hargrove's attorneys challenged it hard, arguing that frontier records were often inconsistent and that a decades-old private letter could not overturn a properly filed amendment. Judge Whitmore listened without expression. Then the witnesses came. Maria Garza told how Hale Ranch hands had finished her family's harvest when her husband fell ill. Tom Finley described 4 men rebuilding his burned barn without wages. Mr. Henderson told how Ethan had ridden through winter rain to help move stranded cattle from rising water. Bobby Reeves spoke last. I made a mistake, he said. His hands tightened around his hat. Mr. Hale could have fired me. Most men would have. He made me learn the figures instead. Bobby glanced toward Ethan. He said a mistake wasn't the same as a habit. The courtroom stayed quiet. Then Aldridge called Lily Hale. She walked forward alone. Hargrove's attorney questioned the marriage almost immediately. Mrs. Hale, your family faced severe debt when Mr. Hale proposed marriage, correct? Yes. So you were under pressure. From drought and debt, yes. And Mr. Hale's proposal offered the only practical escape. At that moment, yes. The attorney paused. Then how can you describe your decision as free? Lily looked at him. Because Ethan Hale told me I could say no. Someone shifted on a bench. He told me the offer ended if I refused. He promised there would be no punishment against my family. He gave me my own room, my own authority in the household, and never once treated the debt as something I owed him personally. The attorney tried again. Yet surely you understood what refusing might cost your family. I did. So circumstances forced your hand. Lily's voice remained calm. Circumstances frightened me. They did not speak for me. She turned slightly toward Judge Whitmore. I chose that marriage afraid. Those are not the same thing. Ethan's face did not move. His eyes did. Lily continued. I believed I was marrying a stranger because my family needed help. Since then, I have watched that man forgive mistakes, feed families who could not repay him, work beside his own hired hands, and keep promises nobody was there to witness. She looked toward Ethan. I was afraid I had judged him wrongly when I said yes. A pause. I had. The attorney sat down. Judge Whitmore called a recess. 40 minutes passed. Lily and Ethan waited on a wooden bench beneath a courthouse window. Their shoulders nearly touched. Then Ethan spoke. When I made that offer, I told myself it was practical. Lily turned toward him. I needed somebody to manage the house and ranch affairs. Your family needed the debt gone. He looked at his hands. I thought that was enough. It was then. No, his voice softened. I didn't understand what I was asking you to risk. Lily said nothing. Ethan finally looked at her. If Whitmore rules against us, I'll fight it. If we lose the creek, I'll find another way to keep the ranch. He swallowed. But there's one thing I won't do. What? Use any of it to keep you. The noise in the hallway seemed to disappear. If you ever want to leave, Lily, you leave. No debt, no obligation, no explanation required. Her eyes burned. Months earlier, those words would have been freedom. Now they meant something entirely different. She reached for his hand. I know. Ethan looked down at their joined fingers. I'm not staying because I have nowhere else to go. His eyes rose. I'm staying because you're here. The courtroom door opened. Judge Whitmore had returned. His ruling took less than 10 minutes. The 1869 amendment was invalid. The original 1861 boundary stood. The 60 acres remained Hale property. So did Miller Creek. Hargrove left without looking back. There was no cheering. Cord simply gripped Ethan's hand with both of his. Maria Garza hugged Lily. Bobby Reeves stood against the wall, blinking hard at the ceiling. Outside, the winter sun had broken through. Months later, spring came quietly to Hale Ranch. New grass covered the south pasture. The repaired fence ran straight toward Miller Creek. Blue curtains moved gently in the kitchen windows. One morning, Lily walked beside Ethan along the pasture line. He stopped near the creek. There's something I should have told you sooner. She waited. You were never a debt to me. His voice was low. Maybe I thought I was solving a problem when I came to your father's house, but you became something I didn't know how to ask for. Lily looked at him. A partner? His mouth moved slightly. More than that. She slipped her hand into his. Good. Good? Because I've already reorganized your summer accounts. He laughed. A real laugh this time. Lily smiled and leaned her shoulder lightly against his arm. She remembered the frightened woman who had ridden through the Hale gate months earlier, wondering whether her new husband's promise was kindness or merely the first lie of her new life. You'll always have a choice with me. Now she understood why those words had mattered. Ethan had not won her because he rescued her. He had given her room to remain herself. And when the choice truly became hers, when no debt and no fear could command her anymore, Lily chose him. Not once. Every morning, every hard season, every quiet supper beneath the blue curtains, and Ethan Hale chose her the same way. That was how their marriage finally became something no contract could ever have created. A home. And maybe that is the part of Lily and Ethan's story worth carrying with us. Because sometimes the life we fear most is simply the life we cannot see clearly yet. Lily arrived at Hale Ranch believing circumstances had chosen her future for her. But Ethan never asked her to surrender herself in exchange for safety. He gave her room to speak, room to work, room to disagree, And most importantly, room to choose. Imagine standing where Lily once stood, with your family behind you, an uncertain road ahead, and no promise that the person waiting at the other end would be worthy of your trust. Would you have found the courage to take that first step? And imagine being Ethan, carrying everyone else for so long that you had forgotten what it felt like when someone chose to stand beside you. Perhaps lasting love is not built from grand promises. Sometimes it grows quietly, in coffee left warm on a table, in burdens shared without being asked, in second chances, and in the simple decision to keep showing up when leaving would be easier. If Lily and Ethan's journey stayed with you, tell us in the comments what moment touched you most. And if you'd like to spend more evenings with stories of frontier love, hidden truths, healing, and second chances, you're warmly invited to subscribe. There are more roads ahead, and more stories waiting beyond the next ridge.